Hi all, welcome to the next unit. Today we will discuss on the topic proteins. So we will learn about the nutritional aspects of the proteins, but here we are discussing more on the biochemistry side of a protein. So we know the proteins are composed of a smaller units of amino acids. If you hydrolyze or the further digestion of a protein, so we will finally getting the simpler form of the protein, that is what we call amino acid. So the molecule which yield amino acid upon hydrolysis, that are called the proteins. So the molecule here is protein. So the molecule which yield amino acid on hydrolysis, that is what that is the name. The name of that molecule is protein. Normally, the proteins are natural polymer of amino acid. The number of amino acid in protein molecule that ranges from 2 to several thousands. So normally the protein is composed of the various elements such as nitrogen, carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. So these proteins, we know the protein are the major structural components of all animal and human tissues. It have a certain properties such as this protein act as a biological catalyst or enzyme, and it form a structural parts of organisms because our body is composed of a small cells. So this protein is a very important part of that cell. Now it also participate in the different cell reactions. This protein, it is having a immunity in nature. At the same time, it acts as a fuel for giving energy. The classification of proteins: simple proteins, conjugated proteins, derived proteins. So this is the major classification based on its chemical nature. What do you mean by the simple protein? Simple protein is nothing. If you hydrolyze a particular protein, it will give only one amino acid. So that is simple protein. Now conjugated protein is, if you hydrolyze a protein, if it give an amino acid and a non-protein group, then we will consider it as a conjugated protein. And last one is called derived protein. That derived proteins are normally obtained from this simple and conjugated protein. It's a simple classification of the protein. So first we will see one example for the simple protein. So here the given example is albumin. Yes, albumin, you are familiar with the albumin protein because this albumin protein is present in egg. Okay, so this albumin protein, it is a globular protein and which is insoluble in water, but it is soluble in dilute salt solution. If you add its ammonium sulfate, this protein will be precipitated. And if we heat, it will coagulate. What do you mean by the coagulate? Coagulation means a fluid like solution will converted into a semi thick or a thick uh, compound. Okay, that is what we call the coagulation. Now this albumin is also found in plant and animal tissue. Another example of simple protein is globulin. This is also a globular protein. It is a sparingly soluble in water and neutral solutions. If you add ammonium sulfate, this globulin will precipitate it. So the globulin will also coagulated if you heated this particular compound. This is also distributed in both plant and animal tissues. Another example is glutalins. It is insoluble in water and dilute salt solutions. It's soluble in dilute acids. Normally, these glutalins, you may heard about the glutalin when you study the paper food science. The glutalin is normally found in grains and cereals. Next example is the histones. Histones are normally seen in thymus gland, pancreas, and nucleohistones as a nucleoprotein. And these histones are soluble in water, salt solution, and dilute acids, but insoluble in ammonium hydroxide. So this histone will yield a large amount of lysine and arginine. It is an amino acid. It combined with nucleic acid within the cell. Inside the cell, there is nucleic acid is there. So this histone is a part of that nucleic acid. Now next is scleroproteins. Scleroproteins are present in connective tissues and heart tissues. So it is a fibrous, it is not a globular protein, but two types, two pattern, it is a two structural pattern of the protein. One is globular and another is called fibrous protein. This scleroprotein is a fibrous protein which is insoluble in all solvents. And it is not easy to, it is not break down if the digestion take place. So it resists the digestion. So next is conjugated protein. So here the example given is nucleoprotein. It contains nucleic acid, nitrogen, and phosphorus. It is present in chromosomes and in all living forms as a combination of protein with either DNA or RNA. Another example called mucoprotein. So it is present in saliva as a mucin and in egg white as an ovomucoid. Protein is combined with amino sugars, sugar acids, and sulfates. Another example for the conjugated protein is glycoproteins. These glycoproteins are present in the form of oseomucoid in bones, tendomucoid in tendons, and chondromucoid in cartilage. If this glycoprotein contains 4% of hexosamine, then we will consider it as a mucoprotein. If it contains less than 4%, then it is glycoprotein. Another example is called the phosphoproteins. So in milk, these phosphoproteins are seen in the form of a casein, and in egg yolk, it is in the form of ovovitelline. So here, the phosphoric acid is joined in ester linkage to protein. So that is the chemistry of this phosphoprotein. So last one is derived proteins. Here example given is proteins. So it is a part of elastin. Elastin is present in, it is a part, elastin is normally present in muscles, is it? And myosin and elastin, the both are a part of our body muscles. So in the muscles, this proteasin is present in the form of elastin and myosin. It results from short action of acids or enzymes. So if acids or enzymes are added, then only we will get these proteins. And this compound is insoluble in water. Next is proteases. It is an intermediate product of protein digestion and it is soluble in water. If we heat the proteases, it won't coagulate it. If we add a saturated ammonium sulfate, this compound will precipitate it. So this proteases is obtained from the partial digestion of protein by the action of enzyme called pepsin or trypsin. So another derived protein is called a peptones. So it is an intermediate product of the protein digestion. It having also same property as the proteases, except they cannot be salted out. Means it is not precipitated. It won't precipitate. Smaller, the molecular weight of the peptone is less than that of the proteases. Now we are moving to the next part of the this chapter one, that is called the structure of protein. So actually depends on the spatial arrangement of polypeptide chain. Polypeptide chain where these amino acids are combined together to form a polypeptide chain. So based on the polypeptide chain, the structure of the protein is categorized into four. One is primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. The first one is called the primary structure of proteins. So here the sequence of amino acid in a polypeptide chain is called a primary structure. So you can see a sequence of amino acids which is attached to a polypeptide chain. So that is what we call the primary structure. So here one amino acid is linked to another amino acid with the help of a peptide bond. So this is the sequence of amino acid to the polypeptide chain. So this is the how a primary structure of the protein appears. Next is secondary structure of the protein. So here the peptide chain may occur spiral shape or may be present in a zigzag manner. So the primary structure you have seen, it is a simple kind of a chain-like structure, is it? So here this structure will form as in the form of a spiral shape. This coiling of peptide chain is called the secondary structure of the protein. So here it is mainly due to the hydrogen bonding. So this is how the secondary structure of the protein looks like. So here the spiral kind of twisting of the polypeptide chain you can see in here. Next is tertiary structure of the protein, that is twisting or folding of the polypeptide chain that represent the tertiary structure of the protein. Next, moving to the quaternary structure of the protein. Quaternary means four. It is the arrangement of multiple folded protein or a coiling protein molecules in a multi-subunit complex. A variety of bonding. So you have seen in the last chains different types of bonding. So here you can see more than one type of bonding. A variety of bonding interactions including hydrogen bonding, salt bridges, disulfide bonds that hold the various chains into a particular geometry. So here is how the multiple folded protein molecules in a multi-subunit complex. So this is how the quaternary structure of the proteins appears. So here is a quick look on the various structure of the protein, the primary structure, the secondary structure, tertiary, and finally the quaternary structure. Now I'm moving to the physical properties of the protein. The protein, we know it is a colorless and usually tasteless. About its shape and size, it is a crystalloid spherical structure to long fibrillar structure. So it having two pattern of shape, which I told you earlier. One is globular and one is fibrillar pattern. The molecular weight is something very large and it is colloidal in nature. Colloidal nature means if you add a protein into a solution, it will disperse in the water. It won't accumulate at the bottom of the container. It will be always in the, it is not soluble in water. So it is in the form of a dispersed, this particle will disperse in that solution. Next is denaturation. Denaturation means we are changing the original nature of the protein. If you add any salt or heat, if you apply any heat or any mechanical action on that particular protein, that natural state of the protein will be changed. So that is denaturation. We can say that if denaturation occurs, the all property of the protein will changes, and that denaturation follows the coagulation. Next is amphoteric nature, that is protein can act as acid and alkali or both. Next is ion binding capacity. It can form salt with both cations and anions. Cations are the negatively charged ions and anions are positively charged ion. So that will be based on their net charge. Next is solubility. Normally, the solubility will influenced by its pH. The solubility is lowest at isoelectric point, and the solubility will increases when the solution become acidity or alkalinity. Okay, and solubility will be lowest at the isoelectric point. Next is optical activity. Optical activity means optical property of that particular protein. Optical property can be identified by the rotation of a polarized light. If an unpolarized light is allowed to pass into a particular medium, that unpolarized light will be, we will polarized it. That unpolarized light will converted into a polarized light. So the rotation of that polarized light, that will indicate the optical activity. If the polarized light rotate towards the left, then we will call it levorotatory. If the polarized light rotate to the right, then it is a dextrorotatory. But in the case of proteins, here normally all protein solution will rotate the plane of polarized light towards the left. So we can say it is a levorotatory. So that's all about the physical properties of the protein. Now the chemical properties. So I'm not explaining each property of here, but I will just list out what are the chemical properties of the protein. So we will discuss all these properties later in your seminar classes. So the first one is hydrolysis, then the reaction involving carboxyl group, reaction involving amine group, the reaction involving both carboxylic and amino group, the reaction involving R group or side group. R group means totally for a human, in our human request total 20 amino acids. All these 20 amino acids having polypeptide chain. So this R group means the side branched chain. That is what we call the R group. Next is reaction involving the SH group. So that's all the chemical properties of the protein. Now we will see the physical properties of the amino acids. Amino acid is also, if the protein is colorless and tasteless, of course the amino acids are also colorless, and it is a crystalline in solid. All amino acids have a high melting point greater than 200 degrees Celsius. So this amino acid will start melt only if the temperature we raise it up to the 200 degree. Now the solubility, it is soluble in water, it is slightly soluble in alcohol and dissolved with a difficulty in methanol, ethanol and propanol. And R group or the side chain of the amino acid and the pH of the solvent that play important role in solubility. On heating to high temperature, this protein will this amino acid will decompose. All amino acid except glycine are optically active. Okay, so I explained what do you mean by optical rotation. So here all amino acids are optically active except glycine. Next is peptide bond formation. Amino acid can connect with a peptide bond involving their amino and the carboxylate group. So amino acid means there is amine and carboxyl group is there. So here the peptide bond is connected each other. So these amino acid are connected each other with the help of this peptide bond. A covalent bond formed between the alpha amino group of one amino acid and alpha carboxyl group of other forming CONH linkage. The peptide bonds are planar and partially ionic. Now these are the chemical properties of the amino acid. One is Switter ionic property, amphoteric property, ninhydrin property, xanthoprotic test, reaction with Sanger's reagent, and reaction with the nitrous acid. So as I told you earlier, the chemical properties of all this will be discussed during your seminar classes. Okay. So we come to the end of today's class. So please go through once more. And if you, I already assigned the topic for writing assignment also. So I'm just briefing all the portions you are supposed to write on assignment. So if you have any doubts or anything, we will see in our class. Okay. So that's all for today. Thank you.